In one night, a wall of seawater 10 meters high swallows island after island in the Bay of Bengal. In the worst-hit district, nearly half the population is gone by morning. At least 300,000 people die, some estimates reach 500,000. It remains the deadliest tropical cyclone ever recorded. This is the story of the 1970 Bhola Cyclone. The disaster centers on the Ganges Delta, where the Bay of Bengal meets East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. Millions of people farm rice and fish these coastal waters, living on islands and floodplains barely above sea level. When a major storm arrives here, the flat land offers the sea nothing to push against. On the 1st of November, a tropical storm named Nora crosses the South China Sea, then weakens into a remnant low near the Gulf of Thailand. Its remnants feed a new depression in the central Bay of Bengal on the 8th of November. No country in the region names cyclones yet, so this storm begins without one. The depression drifts north for a day, then stalls over the bay. On the 9th of November, the India Meteorological Department upgrades it to a cyclonic storm. It holds nearly still that evening, far out over the open water, before accelerating north on the 10th. On the 11th of November, the storm strengthens into a severe cyclonic storm and curves toward the head of the bay. It develops a clear eye and reaches peak intensity that day. Sustained winds of 185 kilometers per hour and a central pressure of 960 hectopascals. The cyclone makes landfall on the East Pakistan coast the evening of the 12th of November, arriving almost exactly with the local high tide. That timing turns a dangerous storm into a catastrophic one. The surge and tide rise together, with nothing to blunt the force pushing inland. Many islanders are caught by surprise. The storm warning system is not properly used, and it's unclear how much information reaches East Pakistan from Indian forecasters, given friction between the two countries. As the storm nears, radio broadcasts a great danger signal, but survivors later say the phrase meant little to them. At Chittagong, 95 kilometers east of the landfall point, instruments record winds of 144 kilometers per hour before the anemometer is destroyed. A ship in the harbor later logs a gust of 222 kilometers per hour. The storm surge reaches 10 meters at the Ganges Delta, and the tide at Chittagong peaks 4 meters above sea level. Radio Pakistan reports no survivors on 13 islands near Chittagong. A flight over the region shows total devastation across the southern half of Bhola Island, and the rice crops of Bhola, Hatia, and the nearby mainland coast are gone. Ports at Chittagong and Mongla report damaged vessels, and the airports at Chittagong and Cox's Bazar sit for hours under a meter of water. Over 3.6 million people are directly affected. Survivors say roughly 85% of homes in the area are destroyed or badly damaged. 90% of marine fishermen suffer heavy losses, including 9,000 offshore fishing boats destroyed. Of 77,000 onshore fishermen, 46,000 are killed by the cyclone. Total damage from the storm reaches an estimated $86 million. Agricultural losses include $63 million of crops and 280,000 cattle. Contaminated water supplies bring a rise in cholera and typhoid, and the outbreak delays medical aid reaching survivors. 3 months on, 75% of the population still depends on relief workers for food. The exact death toll is still unknown. 2 medical surveys are carried out by the Pakistan Seato Cholera Research Laboratory, one in November and a more detailed one in February and March, covering about 1.4% of the region's population. The first survey estimates mortality at 14.2%, a death toll of 240,000. The second, more rigorous survey excludes migrant workers and families wiped out entirely to avoid exaggeration. It concludes the overall death toll is at least 224,000. The worst effects strike Tazumuddin, where mortality reaches 46.3%, around 80,000 deaths in that single thana alone. The data show adult males aged 15 to 49 survive at the highest rate. More than half of all deaths are children under age 10, even though children make up only a third of the pre-storm population. The very young, the elderly, and the sick face the greatest risk from the surge. Pakistani gunboats and a hospital ship reach outlying islands within days, and army teams arrive across the stricken coast. On the 24th of November, President Yahya Khan finally arrives in Dhaka to take charge of relief. At a press conference, he admits the government made slips and mistakes, but insists everything was done within the limits of the government. Political leaders in East Pakistan are furious. 10 days after the storm, 11 of them accuse the central government of gross neglect, callous indifference, and utter indifference. Students march in Dhaka in protest, and on the 24th of November, Maulana Abdul Hamid Khan Bashani addresses a rally of 50,000 people demanding the president's resignation. Awami League leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman condemns the destruction in the starkest terms. He calls it a holocaust and describes the military junta's response as criminal negligence. His words capture the fury spreading across East Pakistan, a fury that is about to reshape the country's politics. Leftist parties in both East and West Pakistan boycott the coming election, clearing the field for the Awami League. A month after the storm, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's party wins East Pakistan in a landslide. The government's mishandled relief effort has deepened a bitterness that will soon erupt into war. Aid arrives from around the world. India pledges over $1 million despite tense relations between the two countries. United States President Richard Nixon allocates $10 million and ships 200,000 tons of wheat. Britain sends a Royal Navy task force with helicopters and landing craft. By the end of November, 38 helicopters are operating across the disaster area. In 1971, ex-Beatle George Harrison and musician Ravi Shankar organized the concert for Bangladesh, inspired in part by the cyclone and the war and genocide that follow it. It is the first benefit concert of its kind, and it proves remarkably successful at raising money, aid, and awareness for the region. The disaster reshapes disaster response in the region. A cyclone preparedness program, building on Red Crescent groundwork begun in 1966, formally launches in 1972 to warn coastal communities and train emergency personnel. Over the next 30 years, more than 200 cyclone shelters rise along the coast of what is now Bangladesh. When the next major cyclone approaches in 1991, Cyclone Preparedness Program volunteers warn people 2 to 3 days ahead. Over 350,000 people flee to shelters and high ground. That storm still kills more than 138,000, but far fewer than 1970, partly because of the warnings sent out by a program that did not exist 21 years earlier. The 1970 Bhola Cyclone remains the deadliest tropical cyclone ever recorded, and one of the deadliest natural disasters in modern history. Its true toll may never be known, but its aftershocks outlasted the storm. A government's failure to respond helped fuel the anger that led, 7 months later, to the Bangladesh Liberation War. Out of that single night, a new nation was born.